Hello, welcome to DA Garage. Today I'm going to be talking about the things that I like and the things that I dislike about my Honda V65 Sabre. Instead of doing a traditional 5 things I like and 5 things I dislike, I'm going to be doing something a little bit more creative, and you'll see why soon. 6 things I like, 5 things I dislike. Oh. So we're going to be going over the dislikes first. That way we can finish this video on a positive note. The way that this works is the higher the number, the more minor that it is. Number 1 though is very significant. Number 5. So this one is extremely minor. It's actually not even a problem with the bike. Just a personal preference. The seating position, I feel like it's a little too upright. I like it to have a little more forward lean, just slightly more aggressive. But that's just me. It's, no fault of the bike. Number 4. The stock exhaust note is too tame. I don't need it to be incredibly loud, but I am riding an 80s muscle bike. It's a 120 horsepower monster. I just wish it sounded more like it. Alright, don't get me wrong. I don't think it sounds bad at all. I just wish it sounded a little meaner. What I'm used to is my XS11, which sounded like this.
Give her a little pepper!
Number 3. Look at that thing. Plastics and turn signals on this just seem really cheap and flimsy. If you notice, look at this different color right here. That's because this fender is not original to this bike. And the reason is because the prongs that hold this on here, they get brittle and break. So this is a different one. It isn't broken yet. Actually, this is the one that I taped up. Seems to be holding the best. But overall, it just seems like these plastics and turn signals on this bike just flimsy, and they're not sun damaged either. Just not a very good quality. Number 2. Besides the oil change, which was really easy, this machine is going to be much more complicated to work on than I'm used to, and I'm no mechanic. I'm used to working on my 1980 Yamaha XS11. That was a very simple air-cooled inline 4. Boy, was that thing easy to tinker on. The V65? Not looking forward to turning wrenches on it. Here we are at my number 1 complaint. If you know about Honda's early V4 engines, then you already know what my number 1 complaint is. Compared to my other complaints, this one easily takes the cake. Actually, not even just the cake. It takes the cake, the plates, the silverware, and the table. It's pretty major. And that would be the bad head design and problematic cams. So back in the 80s, Honda's V4 engines got a reputation. Unfortunately, not a good one. And the reason is because of their cam failures and the bad head design. People started to call them chocolate cams. The good news is Honda did address this problem, and on their next gen V4 engines, they went with gear-driven cams, which made the engines bulletproof. Even though this is my number 1 concern, I'm not too worried about it right at this moment because this is a very low miles bike and it was well taken care of. But there are things that we can do to stop this problem from happening. What should be your main preventative is keeping up on your oil changes. It is incredibly easy on this bike. Definitely keep up on that. That'll keep the life of the cams longer. Now, some of the other stuff that you can do too is keep the revs around 3,500 RPM, because below that, the heads don't get adequate oil flow. So as long as you're staying above that, the oil flow should be okay. You can also get cams that are made of a harder material. One of the issues with the cams that were in this bike is the material is a little bit too soft, and that's why, coupled with heat and inadequate oil flow, the cams got really worn and gouged. They could have been made of a harder material. So you can get cams that are actually made of a harder material, so that shouldn't happen. Other thing you can do is try to be very aware of the temperature of the bike. Keep it cool. You can rejet and use high octane fuel. That'll also help keep it cooler. So there are things that you can do to actually completely solve this problem. If you take those steps, I've heard of the chocolate cams, actually completely gone. Not an issue whatsoever after those modifications have been done. One other thing I forgot to add, you can actually get a modification as well. It's a piping modification that allows more oil to flow to the heads. So that's my number one concern, my number one dislike. Not too much of an issue right now. Like I said, I'm not really too worried about it. However, it's something that's just always on the back of my mind whenever I'm riding. I know it's something that I'm gonna have to deal with in the future. And that's a pretty big deal, so that's number one for me. Alright, time for the likes, and there's a lot to like about this bike. Number 6. This bike is unique, and I like its rarity. It was only made for 2 years, 1984 and 85. Plus you don't see older bikes cruising around often anyways. It just feels kinda cool riding a motorcycle that no one else around here has. Number 5. This might seem unimportant, and I actually thought it was before owning this bike, but turns out, having a dash display is really convenient. Having a temperature gauge, an accurate fuel gauge, a clock, gear indicator, and directional self-canceling turn signals is quite nice. Number 4. This bike has excellent cruising ability. This Honda would be choice for long hauls. It's comfortable and smooth and has loads of passing power when you need it. This machine can cruise 75 miles an hour at just 4,000 RPM. On long trips, this two-wheeled beast eats the miles and sips the gas. Number 3. I love the way this bike looks. The first time I saw one, I thought, whoa, that is a sweet looking bike. I want it. Definitely a cool looking motorcycle and a class of its own. It looks very 80s and I love it. Number 2. You all knew this one was going to be on the likes list. It was almost going to be number 1, but the actual number 1 will make more sense when I get to it. Number 2 is the gobs of power that this V65 puts down. This thing is ferocious, and if you don't have good throttle control, it will bite you. If you don't like having a billion foot-pounds of torque thrusting you forward at any RPM, then this bike isn't for you. Lucky for me, my addiction is speed, so this bike has me covered there. And number 1. The riding experience that this machine provides is second to none. It just does everything so well. You want blistering speed and acceleration? You got it. You want long-haul comfort and cruising? You got it. You want to lean the bike and carve some twisties? You got it. Every time I hop on this Honda, it makes me smile. I love every moment riding it, and when I park, I turn around and stare at it and think, what a cool bike, and it's mine. And that, my friends, concludes my list of likes and dislikes on my Honda V65 Sabre. If you like what you saw and you want to see some more, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'll see you all next time. Thanks, everyone.